All right, here we go.
I am Boba Fett. The Book of Boba Fett. Now, I was very excited when they first announced it, when we got to see the post-credit scene in The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, this will be a spoiler review because I really feel like to really truly talk about the show, I'm gonna talk about spoilers. So you've been warned, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I had two experiences watching this show, because the first time I watched it, I had more issues actually with the show as the show moved forward. And then when I watched it again now for this review, I actually enjoyed the show much more and it was way better. The action, the storylines, the character lines. And the only thing I really felt like there's only one major thing that really is the problem with the show. I'm gonna get to that in a second, but first I want to talk about the good stuff, and that is Temuera Morrison as Boba Fett and Ming-Na as Fennec Shand. Those two are really great. They have great chemistry throughout the show. I really love Fennec Shand. Is such a badass in the show. I loved it when we got her introduced in The Mandalorian, and then see her and Boba team up and basically have this dynamic duo, you know, ruling together. Most aspect was done actually very great. As far as all the other characters in the show, as we all know, we do get some pretty awesome characters in this series. And I feel like Temuera Morrison really gives a good performance and really helps to flesh out the character of Boba Fett, I really think. Same as Fennec Shand in the show. She really gets more time to show, like you get more times with the characters, what I really like, and we get more insight into Boba Fett on how he plans to rule. But also what I feel like the major thing, like I said before, when I watched it the first time and the second time, the only thing that really like was still the same, what I feel like was the problem with the show, is the way the story is told. And I noticed this especially by rewatching it again, is that actually if this show would have been told chronologically, instead of skipping back and forth between flashback, forward, back him as with the Tusken Raiders and then him as Daimyo, I really feel like if they were told it just chronologically, like him first, you know, see him with the Tusken Raiders and then him seen as Daimyo, I think the show would have been way better, the consistency would have been better, and the storytelling would have been much better. Because what I noticed a lot, one of my favorite aspects of the show is actually seeing him with the Tusken Raiders, which I just love. We got to see him, you know, in the Sarlacc pit, and then, you know, got out, and then Jawas take his armor, and then he gets taken in by the Tusken Raiders. And I really love the Tusken Raiders in this show. That was so great, and what I really love how they take him in and how Boba Fett slowly but surely, you know, becomes one of them, helps him stop this train, which was such an amazing sequence. And what I really feel like why the Tusken Raiders fit so well with Boba, because there are a lot of ways they are the same in the Star Wars universe. You know, they look very cool, they have masks on, we do not know a lot about them, there are a lot of stuff we still know about them, so they're very mysterious, but they're also badass warriors. And there's also with Boba Fett. Boba Fett was also the only thing we only knew up to then, like Boba Fett is very mysterious, he has a cool ass armor, he's a badass warrior. It really fits well to have Boba, you know, be with the Tusken Raiders basically for 5 years and see him become one of them and help them learn their language and then to see him evolve. That was one of my favorite aspects of the show actually, to see Boba Fett, you know, him. I do wish we would have seen him more in the Sarlacc pit, like to see more how he actually got out, because like the way they show it, it's cool, it's interesting, but it's so short, and that's like one of the biggest Star Wars mystery that like all the fans want to see, like how did he get out of the Sarlacc pit. And I think if they have shown that a little bit more, like see him more, like at least like a good minute or minute and a half of him crawling to the Sarlacc pit, everything, I think it would improve so much more, and it would have been just great to see like how actually he got out. Because I don't know how, because if you look at the picture of the Sarlacc pit like from inside and like the amount of sand, he's like, did he just crawl to like, I don't know, meters of sand just like that? I mean, well, it's Boba Fett, he make it through. Just I wish we got a little bit more of that, because that was always such an interesting aspect of like how he got out, and it would have been really great to see. But like I said, everything with the Tusken Raiders is done really great. I love the little Tusken Raiders, I love the king, I love all the warriors around it. I really love, the Tusken Raiders was so good in this show. I want to see a Disney Plus show just with Tusken Raiders. It would be so interesting to see. They have many different tribes, and you could clearly tell there was a different tribe of Tusken Raiders than the ones that attack Luke or the ones that we are are mostly familiar with on Tatooine. So it was really interesting to see how they operate, how they maneuver, how they use this little seashells things to drink water to find actually, and see Boba train and fight and get his stick. It's just, that was really actually great. All that before Boba Fett, you know, his way, how he got to be like, as soon as we saw him in Mandalorian season 2, that everything was great. And I really love we got to see some flashbacks to Kamino and him as a kid, and that was just Attack of the Clones, and that was just like, ooh, that just hit me right here, because I remember seeing Attack of the Clones in cinemas and just loving it as a kid. Still till this day, one of my favorite movie theater experience was seeing Attack of the Clones as a kid. That movie, I love that movie so much. And it's just, I love seeing the flashback sequences. And once we get to him as a daimyo, it's interesting to see how he rules, and I feel like they kind of had like, they kind of had a cheat code, because like I said, we didn't actually get to see very much Boba Fett in the movies. Like, we got to see him like a minute or two in Empire and a minute in Return of the Jedi. So there's not actually, we don't really know how he acts, how he moves, how he actually, you know, consumes power and tries to be in power. I mean, yes, there are comic books, but it's not the same when you see it in film format. So they actually had like freedom to actually develop how Boba Fett is. And you get to see, like he says, he want to rule with respect, he want to rule with, not with fear. And I like the things that we see in the show, that he's trying to, you know, resolve matters peacefully, not with violence, not with anger. Like, he's trying to be a smarter, you know, daimyo than Boba or Bib Fortuna was. Well, Bib Fortuna was just actually just like a puppet controlled by the Hutts, but not the same as Jabba was. And I feel like a lot of things with him, like Boba Fett is too soft, or, you know, he's not violent enough. Like, first of all, you know, this is a Disney Plus, so I don't think too violent you can get, unless you get to episode 5 where Mando just cuts a person in half. I feel there's an interesting aspect not to see have Boba Fett as this ruthless warrior, even though I feel like Boba Fett could have been a little bit more ruthless. But I feel like because this is a Disney show, we are not allowed to see that. I mean, if the show really would have been rated R or a little bit, you know, rougher, I think this show would have, I think that was kind of missing with Boba Fett, because like, even though I like that he was trying to resolve matters peacefully, I still think if he would have been just a little bit more aggressive, I think it would have been added just a little bit more to the character. It just would have been really much great. Like I said, when he tries to, you know, he have the different territories of different families, and they're attacking him and not getting along with each other, and then you have the Hutts, the twins. When I saw them twins, I got some Game of Thrones vibe right now. I was like, oh yeah, no, they do it way too much. But it was great to see. And all those workers, yo, who had to hold them, yo, I don't want to have your job. I mean, your back and your legs are dead. Carrying those two all day long? Oh hell, that's gotta be a hell of a job. What I like about the show is that it really expands on, you know, on the world of Tatooine, almost Espa, and how things work. And it really expanded, and you see different tribes, different families, different gangs and everything around. And it was very interesting. And then we got Chrysanthemum, who was just like Black Chewbacca. As soon as I saw him, I was like, hell yeah! I was just like, yes! Ooh, as soon as I saw him, I was like, ooh, yes! More Wookiees. And I found out later that he was actually in the comics, but I haven't read the comics yet. But like, just as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, yes, give us awesome more characters. And then of course we get some cool action and him fighting, surprising Boba, fighting him with Boba, and then helping at the end. And then we get to see rip his arms out exactly when he is at the bar, and the dude hits him with the bottle. In my head, I was like, rip his arms off, rip his arms off. Because at that point, we only got to see in Solo, Chewie rip somebody's arms off, and in Force Awakens, but it was a deleted scene, so it's not in the movie. So anytime the Wookiee rips somebody's arms off, I was like, yes! I was like, that's always such a cool line. When we heard that line, it was like, yeah, but Wookiee don't rip people's hands out of the socket. I was like, ooh, you don't mess with a Wookiee, and you don't mess with him. He's a bad motherfucker. I really like Chrysanthemum in this. It was a great addition to the show. The same as if Danny Trejo as the Rancor trainer. That was just like, yeah, we got Machete. Now what they should do is, like, if we don't get in season 2 Danny Trejo with a laser machete killing stuff, y'all dumb. Y'all just dumb. Like, how do we not? I mean, Danny Trejo want to make Machete in space. This is basically Machete in space, so give us Machete in space. I love the different characters, I love the dynamic between the characters, but also like the Power Ranger kids that he hires. I really feel like though they were alright, they weren't like the greatest aspect of the show. Just I really feel they could have been like a little bit more badass, I would say. I don't mind the colorful scooters, but it's just like the way they look, I really feel like they could have made them look more dangerous, a little bit more scarier. They kind of look a little bit too clean, too, you know, too clean basically. In this town, it's supposed to be like this dirty, you know, rough crime lord town basically in it. But also, like I said, the action, like I said, I have these two experiences, because the first time when I watched the actions, especially when, you know, in the first episode when Boba's walking with Fennec and he gets attacked by these assassins with these shields, and the first time I didn't really like feel like, why is Boba Fett so weak? And also hear like a lot of people, why is he weak? And like when we saw him in Mandalorian, he was like destroying stormtroopers left and right, but to be honest, stormtroopers ain't really a big threat unless they're clones. But it's just like it really felt weakened. But the second time watching it, I noticed that Boba's actually blocking. If you watch that sequence again, it's actually a good action sequence, just because you see Boba blocking all the time these electric things, and then actually holding one with his hands while getting shot and then punching. So I feel like that action sequence got better. I really recommend people watching the show again, because a lot of aspects I found I had an issue with actually found better the second time around. And then of course we get the Mandalorian back in the scene. Now the Mandalorian episode, it was a great episode, actually one of the better ones, even though Boba Fett is in it. But I really do think like we spent too much time with Mando in this episode. I really would love to see, you know, Boba train with his Rancor, which we didn't get to see, which I really felt was kind of a shame. What I really felt like everything we see with Mando in the episode, until he gets to Tatooine and sees the ship, we could have then cut to Boba Fett trying to train with the Rancor, and then have he sometimes cut back and forth of him, you know, opening the ship, flying to the pod racing scene from Phantom Menace. Was such a great scene. I really wish in that episode they could have included seeing Boba Fett with the Rancor, which I think would have added a lot to it. And then we get to episode 6, which I don't know if I posted my reaction to this episode before this review, no, after, but just like that episode was so satisfying. That was one of my favorite episodes in such a long while. And even though Boba Fett is not in it, it's just this episode gave me something I always wanted to see. And that is Luke Skywalker post Return of the Jedi. Because Luke Skywalker is one of my favorite Jedis, but specifically Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi, that is my favorite version of Luke Skywalker. So every time we see him, you know, actually being a true Jedi, like see Luke Skywalker in his Jedihood, because we don't see that. We only see him in Return of the Jedi, where he becomes a Jedi, and then we see him in Force Awakens, where he doesn't do nothing either in it. So like there's this gap of Luke Skywalker awesomeness of him, this time of him being a Jedi, that we now got to see. We got to see him train Grogu. We got this amazing sequence of Order 66, what was so beautifully done. And we got to see Ahsoka back, and those conversations and having, it just was so many. Go watch my reaction of the episode. You see me fanboy out really hard, but that was such a special episode, and I was so happy seeing it. And then we got to see Cad Bane in the episode. It was just like, if that episode couldn't be even better, it's like cherry on top. It's like, how can I make this even more epic? Yeah, let's just add Cad Bane to the mix. It's like, which was so awesome to see Cad Bane in the show. And even though people complain like, oh, it's not the same as the show, well, yeah, duh. The Clone Wars is a cartoon. Of course, the characters in the cartoon show are not gonna look the same like in the live action version. I mean, Count Dooku, if you look at Count Dooku in the Clone Wars and then in Attack of the Clones, I mean, it's completely different. Or the same with Mace Windu. Or it's the same with Mace Windu. It's the same with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Doesn't look the same in the Clone Wars like he does in live action. I mean, like, folks, like, calm down. This is how Cad Bane looks in the live action version. Like, he doesn't need to look exactly like in the Clone Wars version. That's a cartoon, and the cartoon's always a little bit exaggeration, so I feel like that. But when it gets to the final episode, actually I like the final episode, but not really as much as I would like to, because there's some great action sequences. But I really think like having Grogu, because at the end, of course, what I forgot to mention, that Grogu has a choice, you know, either become a Jedi or go back to the Mandalorian. And what I really hope that we would see, this matter resolved in Mando season 3 or in a different show and not in Boba Fett, because I really wish having Grogu back in the final episode, I really wish they would save that reunion, that moment, for Mandalorian Season 3. We don't know much about Mandalorian Season 3, but to having that aspect of them seeing each other again could be a great part of the Season 3 of The Mandalorian. But kind of having that matter already resolved, it kind of ruins a nice moment we could have had, a better moment here. I kind of felt like they just had Grogu in, just like, yeah, people want to see the reunion, so let's have the reunion. When I felt like it would have been way more interesting to see that matter resolve after, you know, in Season 3. I mean, it's nice to see them back, as we get to see a reunion, but I really felt like this really could add a more interesting story for, like I said, for Mandalorian Season 3, because this episode is cool. We get some great action with Boba and Mando, you know, flying around, shooting. We get to see the Rancor, you know, and I really feel the same, like we get to see the Rancor attack those two machines, droids, and I feel like if we were seeing Boba Fett train with the Rancor, it would have made this moment even better. Even though it was epic to see, it would have been even better. I feel like the end of the episode was fine. I do love the end, you know, with the Baby Yoda knocking, like I want to go fast again. And it was just like, I really like the show. Like I said, the first time I have found myself having more issues with the show, but by rewatching the show, I really found the show even better, and I really like this episode. So and I really like the show. I think this is a good show. I feel like the storytelling, if they would have just changed that, what I feel like what my proposal would have been, the first 3 episodes could have been of Boba Fett with him and the Tuskens, and once that resolved, we see him the last 4 episodes or as a daimyo. And I really feel like this should have been an 8-episode series. It would have been better, because then you can have those 2 episodes with Mando and Luke, and then you have like the rest of the episodes with him as daimyo. And so like I said, in the Mando episode, we could have had Boba Fett training with the Rancor. That would have been a nice touch. What I noticed watching the show is like every time we see him with the Tusken Raiders, I was so invested and interesting in it, but then it cuts to him as a daimyo, and then it like, you know, it reroutes your whole focus. The problem is they're telling 2 stories at the same time, and that becomes very messy and not consistency, and it just keeps going back and forth. I really think like you can start the show with him being in the Bantha tank, and then him having flashbacks of, you know, just having that flashback moment, and then see him in the Psylocke pit and him getting out, him being with the Tusken Raiders, and having that, and have that be the 3-episode arc. We get to see him, all these 3, and then have him wake up at the 3rd episode basically, and then see him as a daimyo, and he can be back in the pod. But I think every time, once he's a daimyo, once we see him in the daimyo and he's back in the pod, we should get flashbacks of him on Kamino. That would have been better, like we got to see, and just have it more consistency, and have it, you know, like first the Tuskens, then this, but not this back and forth telling. It really tells a messy story, and it doesn't, I feel like that really hurt the show and didn't make the show as great because of this messy storytelling. Because they had a good story, it was a good story, and I also feel like it was kind of interesting to see like why Boba Fett never was interesting about seeing revenge on Han Solo. But when I think about it, I think Boba Fett doesn't even know that he's in the Sarlacc pit because of Han Solo, because Boba Fett has his back turned to Han Solo, and I don't think he if he knows Han Solo was behind him when his jetpack got attacked and he hit. So like, I don't know why. Maybe this, I heard there's some rumors that, you know, Tamura Morrison wants Mace Windu in Season 2. Well, I was like, yo, if we get that, and Samuel Jackson said multiple times that he would love to reprise his character as Mace Windu, so make that happen, because to see Boba Fett hunting Mace Windu and that fight, it was like, that would be freaking amazing. But overall, the Book of Boba Fett, like I said, I enjoyed the show this more time the second time I watched it, and I really think this is a good show. Just like I said, the way they tell the story is just, that would really what makes the show so messy and not as good. Just like I said, if you told it chronologically order, like first Tusken Raiders, then him as daimyo, the show would have been so much better. I'm really happy the way Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau handle Star Wars with The Mandalorian, with the Book of Boba Fett, with Mando Season 3 that we're gonna get, and I'm happy to see any other show. But I really do think with such an amazing deepfake Luke that we got in this season, I really hope we could act. I really want a Disney Plus show with Luke Skywalker, and even if they don't want to do deepfake Luke all the time, you can cast Sebastian Stan. But even if you don't do that, I really feel like this is a great show. I'm very happy with Star Wars the way it's going now. So let me know what you think of the Book of Boba Fett. Did you like it? Did you didn't like it? And let me know your actions down below. So thanks everybody for watching. As always, see you next time.